Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at the situation around the world and around Nigeria, the pandemic, and this time we're looking at insurance. But just before we get into that, there are these tweets that have come in. Indeed, we got a call from a viewer who said talked about some situation at Ojo Lasu Road, asking that the police be made aware of the situation there. Conflict is going on there, so the police, security operatives, please, if you can, head out to that area and see that peace is restored. Then we have a tweet from Anselm Ifan Yugu, who sent in a tweet from Enugu. He says the people of 042, I don't know what 042 is, they need help from the state government. They say they've been on lockdown since March the 31st. People of 042, Anselm Ifan Yugu sent in that tweet. Then D-Don says, social distancing, says number 48 Alhaji Abbas Street in Ogudu area. Said they've been complaining about a particular religious spot where people have been gathering 50 to 60 members for prayers. He's asking that the authorities please look into that because the issue of social distancing is not really being observed. Then one Shola also tweeted that he and his family of 7 are hungry and they need help, but he didn't say where, hoping that somebody around there will reach out. Again, reach out to your neighbors and help indeed. So we're about to talk about the need for help. A call to provide insurance of frontline health workers arose after the Minister of Health said he was not aware that a hazard allowance is being provided for doctors, even though he came up later to explain that issue. Although the government has promised to provide an insurance cover, but how soon would this promise come to fruition? One of the states, Enugu, for instance, did an insurance package for all frontline workers, the health workers, the fire service, all essential workers in the state were put on an insurance package by the Enugu state government. Are other state governments doing the same? What role can insurance play in all of this? Not just about the healthcare workers, even businesses. At the end of the day, how is insurance going to help and all that? To help us look at this whole matter of insurance during a pandemic, we have the professor, the Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Mohammed Sambo, joining us from our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us, Prof.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Prof. And here in our Lagos studio, we have Yetunde Iloy, who's the Director General of the Nigeria Insurers Association. Thank you for joining us, Madam Iloy.
My pleasure.
Let me start with you, Madam Iloy. Do you think insurance is necessary at a time like this?
Thank you. It's my delight being with you on the program. It's not just that insurance is important at this particular time. It is compulsory. Because pandemic has not taken away risks from us. Whether you're at home, you're at work, you're on the road, risks are there with us at all times. Listening to your station, I heard you talking about the various fire outbreaks here and there. That tells you risk is just with us. Whether at the corporate level, whether at home, it doesn't matter where you are exposed. And then you have to take care of your risk, and that's what insurance is all about.
Okay. Madam Ilori, you know that insurance is a hard sell in Nigeria. Because a lot of Nigerians believe that insurance companies just take your money as premium, and when it is time to make a claim, it's more difficult for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for you to get your claim from an insurance company.
Madam, not anymore, I'll say.
Okay.
Because as NIA being...
Welcome news.
NIA being the umbrella body of all insurance companies in Nigeria, as well as reinsurance. And also with the regulator there, nobody gets away just giving flimsy excuse for not attending to claims. So when people have claims, you need to buy insurance first before you talk of claims.
That buying part is the problem here.
You know the interesting thing? When people say insurance don't pay claims, the first question I ask is, do you have insurance? Are you talking from experience? Or you're just repeating or broadcasting what somebody else has said? Well, insurance is essential, important at this time, and there are so many types of insurances, and you have a recourse in case somebody is trying not to pay your claim or playing a funny game with you.
Car insurance is mandatory in this country.
Yeah.
So at least a number of us have had experience with insurance companies when we've had to make claims on our vehicles.
Well,
So it is not all hearsay.
I agree with you that people have one or two experiences where, I mean, it's not just like you get it that easy. But once you have claims, just as in any contract, there are procedures that you have to go through. You know, at that time when accidents occur, people get so emotional, and it's like, I want it now, 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 now. But insurance process, claim settlement, you have to go through a process. You have to establish the fact that the claim has actually occurred. Sometimes you are asked to provide certain evidences. I bet you, if you do all this and you still don't have your claim, Nigerian Insurance Association is there. We have a complaint bureau. You can make a report. We look into the case and we assist you.
Okay. So while you're looking at insurance generally, let me swing over to Professor Sambo. Professor, Madam Ilori has talked about the fact that insurance cannot be done away with in any situation. As far as there are risks, insurance comes into play. But yours is more or less like a specified situation, health insurance. What role is the NHIS playing in this pandemic, especially considering the fact that some of the people who are victims right now may even be under the health insurance cover?
Yeah. Good morning, viewers. Let me start by thanking the organizers for getting me to be on the studio today, especially during these trying times. Before I start reacting to your question, I want to first of all extend my condolence to the President and Commander-in-Chief for the sudden loss of the Chief of Staff of the President. May his soul rest in perfect peace. The National Health Insurance Scheme is one of the organs of the Federal Ministry of Health, which is saddled with responsibility to, among other things, ensure financial risk protection to the teeming populace. Under the National Health Insurance Scheme, as we are operating currently, we have many enrollees. These enrollees are substantially from the federal establishment, formal sector federal employees. We also have some private sector participation, whereby the enrollees are have also key into the National Health Insurance Program. Similarly, we have individuals under the voluntary social health insurance program of the National Health Insurance who are also enrolled. At the beginning of this pandemic, apparently it will appear as if National Health Insurance has any direct role to play, in the sense that this is a situation that has to do with epidemics, that is meeting global, that is taking global toll. It will appear as if it is a function of the National Center for Disease Control, which is the organ of the Federal Ministry of Health that is saddled with that responsibility. But when you probe deeper, you will now see that despite the fact that we are dealing with a novel disease, which is not necessarily encapsulated in the benefit package of the National Health Insurance Scheme, but National Health Insurance Scheme has tremendous role to play in these epidemics. Because when this pandemic is occurring, it does not mean that other healthcare challenges will not come. You will continue to have malaria. You will continue to have upper respiratory tract infection. You will continue to have chronic diseases like hypertension and diabetes mellitus. You will continue to have women going for pregnancy and antenatal care. You will also be confronted with a situation whereby emergency services will have to be sought. So while the pandemic is being addressed by the relevant organ, the National Health Insurance Scheme must ensure that the network of its healthcare providers within the public setting and within the private setting will continue to offer the services within the context of the benefit package of the National Health Insurance Scheme. So what we did as an agency, first and foremost, we evaluated the situation. We outlined different roles that we can play in the process of curbing this pandemic. First and foremost is for us to be able to sustain all the services that we are currently providing through the network of public and private providers. How do we guarantee that? We were not under any illusion that there might be lockdown and there might be interruption with normal government functions. So what we did is to evaluate our role within the context and ensure that first and foremost we stabilize the framework of our own service delivery by ensuring that we calculated all the necessary funds required to provide services within the capitation and within the fee for service. And we articulated for 3 months, April, May, and June, and we gave to the Health Maintenance Organization so that they will continue to deliver this fund to the healthcare facilities without any hitch. We believe that by doing so, we will continue to provide all the necessary services that we believe they can coexist with the corona pandemics. And we put a tracking mechanism to ensure that the HMO are deploying these resources to the healthcare facility. We have received many calls from our healthcare facilities and the health maintenance organization, thanking NHIS for taking this proactive measure. Another reason why we took that decision is to ensure that should there be a lockdown and there is interference with processes, with government and banking processes, if we are not able to meet that obligation, it therefore means that there will be an interruption of services, and we wouldn't want that to happen in this very trying moment. This is one of the things that we have done. The second thing that we have done, being an organ of the Federal Ministry of Health, we participate fully in all the conversation that is going on with respect to the health sector response to this corona pandemics, and we have been able to contribute a lot of useful input in the processes. In fact, currently, the Ministry of Health is trying to step up the response in view of the number of cases that we are seeing, and in view of the situation. So we are part and parcel of developing an overarching health sector action plan, so that all the actors within the healthcare delivery system can conveniently be integrated in the fight against this pandemic. Then, if you look at the health ecosystem,
if we let you go, Prof, we might need to.
Insurance scheme.
Prof, can we just interrupt you here a little? If we let you, we know you have a lot to say as regards the health insurance and all that. Someone asked a question earlier about the infrastructure, that the pandemic has just opened up the inadequacies in our infrastructure. But I'll come back to you. Let me bring it to Mrs. Ilori here. Mrs. Ilori, this matter of exposure of our infrastructure, there are those who are concerned that the insurance companies, for instance, are more interested in selling insurance instead of, at situations like this, opening it up to offer help, some kind of palliatives. For instance, I mean, some people have been paying their, what's it called, premiums for years. And in a time like this, maybe what the insurance company should be doing should be like, okay, a percentage of the premiums you've been paying, and some haven't even laid claims to them, will be given back to you. Do you think that's a good idea?
As good as...
As a palliative?
As good as that idea seems. Insurance is about a pool of people coming together, pulling their resources together, and compensating the few that will be unfortunate. If you look at the premium that anybody pays, compared to the risk that they are presenting to the insurance company, is so small. The risk is so enormous. For example, if you are insuring your car, even if you pay 10% of the
Value.
purchase value of your car of 4 million, that means you are just going to pay like 400,000. And so if I begin to give back the 400,000 to everybody because they have not had the experience, whereas the money is pulled together to compensate like 2 or 3 that, you know, perhaps will have been involved. So from the principle of insurance, giving back is something that is good. It's something that is possible when it comes to certain risks, and you look at the portfolio that has been presented to you over the years, I can say, oh, I'm going to compensate you. But if I look at the pandemic season, and I now look at my entire portfolio, I want to start giving back money to people, you know, it won't be visible.
No, maybe not asking them not to pay premium at all. Give them a discount on the next premium they're supposed to pay.
This we do, and that's what I'm saying, that for specific portfolios, if I look at how you have done over the years.
No claims?
No, we have no claims discount.
Yeah.
We have no claims discount. If you have been insuring with me as a company, and for like the previous years, you have not made any claim, there's usually no discount, no claim discount that you're entitled to.
Okay. Back to you, Professor. Now, the federal government did say that it would provide insurance for all coverage for frontline health workers. This was last week. So what kind of insurance will be given to these frontline healthcare workers?
I think we need to understand, distinguish the difference between the health insurance and the life insurance. The health insurance is a kind of insurance where everybody will require it, whether you are a health worker, whether you are a citizen. But the kind of insurance that probably the ministry is envisaging is the insurance, is a workman insurance, whereby should anything happen to any healthcare worker in the process of providing services, then certain insurance cover should be applied. That is the kind of insurance I think the federal government is mooting, which is the Federal Ministry of Health is mooting, which is quite different with our insurance business processes, which has to do with when you have a disease, you go to the healthcare facility and you get covered.
Mrs. Laurie, let me bring this to you. We'll still get back to Prof. But let me bring this to you. This question of insurance for the healthcare workers. In our opening, I mentioned that some states have already bought insurance for their healthcare workers, like Enugu State, for instance. But then there are some others who are not. But the federal government is now saying that healthcare workers, and indeed those in the front line, will be given some kind of health insurance. The question is, what kind of insurance would that be that would encourage them to go further in the sacrifice they already are making?
Honestly, we must salute the courage of these patriotic Nigerians who are rather putting their lives on the line in order to take care of other people. First of all, we should know that they are also exposed. They are at risk, if not at a greater risk. And the exposure even extends to their family at home. So one critical policy that should be taken on their behalf is life policy. Life policy means you are putting your life on the line. If anything should happen to you, your family members should at least be compensated to a certain extent. It's something that they have signed for by virtue of their position. And there's no occupation that is without its hazard. So it's part of their own occupational hazard. And so life cover to say, in the process of doing this, if I lose my life, what do I stand to gain? So the federal government, for example, has insurance policy by virtue of the Pension Reform Act 2014 for all its staff, but also amongst these health givers, we have volunteers. And so it might not have been concluded for now, but I know something is going to be put in place for both the medical team and any other person that is involved in this caregiving.
Okay.
Life insurance.
Okay.
And another thing that I want to quickly say, which I'm not too sure is in place, which by virtue of the NHIS requirement, they also ought to have in place, is that could be negligence. Some people could come up suing them for professional negligence. And in that wise,
Suing the medical personnel.
the medical team,
Okay.
giving the care, you know. So they also need professional indemnity. That's what the insurance call it. You know, it's a liability policy saying, in case I'm found wanting in the course of discharging my duty, and anything should come up, it doesn't happen so often in Nigeria, because, I mean, people get it. You hardly know that anything has gone wrong, you know, but it's an insurance that must be in place. But to protect the health givers themselves, you know, they need life insurance.
Okay. Okay, Prof, let's come back to you and talk a bit about the NHIS. This, for instance, there's this thing about the HMOs. I know you talked about the HMOs and how they're working, but there are concerns that the reaccreditation of the HMOs hasn't been concluded for a while now. And then there are no new HMOs coming in to help, even as the population continues to increase. How's that working?
Maybe you have loose touch with what is happening in the health insurance industry.
So what's the status now?
Yeah, the status now is that that process has been completed. I have reviewed what I found on ground, because as when I joined the organization, the process has been completed. But because there was no governing council in place who has the ultimate approval powers, I packaged everything and I took it to the Honorable Minister. He approved that list, in which about 8 HMOs were found, were given full accreditation. About 40-something were given partial accreditation, and one of the HMO was knocked down. We have communicated the result to the HMOs, especially those who are supposed to have been given the partial approval, so that they meet up with all the necessary requirements within 3 months for either them to be fully accredited or to be delisted. We have been receiving returns from all these HMOs, and those ones that have been found to be to have full accreditation, they have continued to render their services. So with the conclusion of that exercise, we will take giving time for these HMOs to be able to fulfill the mandate. Then we now embark on another reaccreditation exercise, because this one would have been completed 2 years back.
Professor, on what do you base your decision to accredit some and not to accredit some?
Yeah, there is a very comprehensive checklist which HMO are X-rayed against. It has to do with the issue that has to do with the organizational structure of the HMO, the kind of human resource mix in line with the standard prescribed by the National Health Insurance Scheme, the financial capital of the health maintenance organization, so that they must be able to maintain some degree of viability, that they can be entrusted to be giving funds on behalf of the National Health Insurance Scheme. The checklist is very comprehensive. It includes issues that has to do with establishment of offices as well as infrastructure. When our staff are going for accreditation, they go with that comprehensive checklist, and when they come back, there is a scoring criteria, and there is a minimum pass mark that HMO will get for them to be fully accredited, and there is a minimum mark that they can score for them to be given partial accreditation. And when they get any score below that, they will now be delisted. That is the criteria.
Okay, Prof. How do I say it now? do people who register with these HMOs have access to you at all so that they can report to you their experience with these HMOs?
Absolutely, ma'am. National Health Insurance Scheme has structure at national and state level. And our operational guideline has clearly state out if you have any complaint, this is where you go. Apart from physical complaint that you can make, we have this toll-free line where clients can call to find to lay their complaint. And once the complaint is instituted, our staff will now swing into action to see how they can address those complaints. In fact, one of the issues that we are doing with respect to the reform of the of this complaint mechanism, we have currently established what we call call center management system. We have designed a new organogram so that an enrollee with a complaint will from Yenogua, he can call the National Health Insurance Scheme, and the call will hit the headquarters, and that call will be transmitted to our state office. So this is the infrastructure that we are trying to improve. We have had the architecture has been presented to the National Health Insurance Scheme. Our management has approved it, and it is encapsulated in our 2020 budget. And by the time we have that, we would have been able to strengthen our complaint management system so that no enrollee will be shortchanged in the process of getting services.
Okay,
so
the
in a
toll-free
nutshell,
number,
I'm saying,
please.
currently we have the mechanism
Professor, the toll-free number, please.
to ensure that complaints...
Prof, the toll-free number, please.
Yes. I need to cross-check that, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Please let us have it so that we can let everybody know about it.
Yeah, what I'm saying, I came and discovered that this one is not working. That is why we are trying to improve our infrastructure now. And the presentation has just been made. And it has been approved. It has been encapsulated in the 2020 budget. And we are, if not because of this lockdown, we would have initiated the process of building this architecture. And apart from that, we do have a mechanism of receiving complaint. One of the strategy that we have employed is that in every healthcare facility, we are going to put a complaint box, which has not hitherto been there. What I'm telling you, there were a lot of problems in the organization that we are trying to fix. Just follow us. In the next few months, all this problem, by the grace of God, and with the effort we are putting in place, it will clearly be addressed.
Okay, thank you. Prof, staying with you, you mentioned something earlier about the HMOs, and I want to bring you back a little bit. You talked about those that have been given accreditation, some partial accreditation, and one that's been knocked down. But you didn't say anything about new HMOs that are going to be accredited, especially considering the fact that the population is increasing. And at this point in time, a lot of people are concerned with the pandemic. A lot of people are concerned about where do I go to? Who will take care of what? I may not have the money to go to the hospital if I have a headache. So if I get there, would my HMO be one of those that have been accredited, and would they take care of me?
Yeah, if you had listened to me carefully at the beginning, I said that I made a process that was not conclusive. So the question is that, do we conclude the process that has almost been concluded, or do we initiate another one? In that process that I made, most of the HMOs that have applied, there were no new ones. But I'm aware that there were so many applications now. But because we have not concluded the one that has taken place now, even we can say 3 years, because I came last year, middle of last year. So we need to complete that process. And when we complete that process, I told you that we will now begin the new process to now factor all the new applications for being HMO, and we initiate the process and we complete and we communicate the result to them. That's why we say that immediately after these 3 months, because we are supposed to be accrediting HMO every 2 yearly. By last year, the old HMO would have been reaccredited, but because the process that has supposed to be completed about 3 years ago has not been done, that's why we completed that one. And very soon, when we have finally taking all the submission from those that have partial accreditation, will initiate the process of the new one. But what I want you to understand, I came and met National Health Insurance Scheme with a lot of problems. Lack of internal stability, so many administrative and human resource challenges, so many operational bottlenecks. The first thing I did was to ensure that I had a very comprehensive situation analysis of the entire scheme. I started by ensuring that the peace, which has eluded National Health Insurance Scheme for many years, has been restored. I met the National Health Insurance Scheme as an organization that is highly factionalized, an organization that tear gas is being thrown out. So what I quickly put my acts together and develop what I called a process of reforming the National Health Insurance Scheme, which is anchored on 3 pillars. 1, trying to restore the value system of the organization. And 2nd, trying to ensure to engender transparency and accountability. And 3, trying to develop a framework that will help us to achieving universal health coverage.
Okay.
It took us a lot of processes.
Prof, we'll just hold your thoughts, Prof. We'll come back so that you tidy up this thing about what is next for the NHIS, especially that thing about regulator and player. Which one is the NHIS? That's a confusion a lot of people have. But we'll talk about all of this when we come back in a moment. Please stay with us. Regulator or player? Which one is the NHIS? Is the NHIS a regulator of the health insurance program or a player?
Yeah, this is one of the recurring questions. And incidentally, even the people that are asking the questions, they don't even understand the question. You see, NHIS has pillars. There are so many variants of health insurance in the world. Most of the organizations, most of the countries that are conducting health insurance not under business arrangement, they have a health insurance which is driven by the health insurance agency. And that health insurance agency is responsible for enrolling people and also networking with the healthcare providers and ensure they provide care. And where they have the serious difficulty is how will they reconcile the payment. So they used to have an agency of reconciliation. If you go to like UK, the National Health System, NHS, is responsible for providing the entire care with no intermediary. If you go to most of the countries where they have universal health insurance with universal health coverage, not for profit orientation, they don't have too much structure, because the more administrative structure you have for driving the health insurance, the more you spend more money in establishing an administrative structures which you have to finance within the health insurance funding. Like if you go to Ghana, they model their health insurance through a system of health insurance. And what they have within the NHS, within the NHA, National Health Insurance Agency, they do have a section that is vested with reconciliation. And if you go to like Turkey, the health insurance is under the social protection. But you have an agency, a separate agency, that is responsible for reconciliation. Most of these questions were coming from HMO. How can NHIS be a regulator and be a provider? And some people are asking a question. Why should NHMO will be saddled with the responsibility of giving authorization code and be saddled with the responsibility of vetting? So I think this question is more of an academic question, which if you are packaging your social health insurance scheme with a view to achieving universal health coverage, you don't need too much structure. You can have an agency which is responsible for registering all the healthcare providers, and you have a unit or section that will be saddled with reconciliations of claims. Because one of the major problems with administration of social health insurance scheme is claim management, because claims are coming day in, day out, and your ability to reconcile the claim is what will protect and insulate the health insurance agency from whim and caprices of people that are trying to outwit the organization. So this question, there is no direct answer to it, depending on how you decide to model your health insurance in your country, because there are so many variants. But in Nigeria, if you look at it, we have the National Health Insurance Scheme. And when the National Health Insurance Scheme was established by the Decree 35 of 1999, the function is very, very clear. National Health Insurance will use the health maintenance organizations as an intermediary for them to be providing funds for the healthcare facility. So the health insurance system are different models depending on how you model it. But the cardinal thing is, how do we engender transparency and accountability so that you have easy way to implement the National Health Insurance Scheme without living into the whims and caprices to be abused and misused?
Let's come back to Mrs. Ilori. You have been silent for quite some time. I want to take you back to something that you spoke about earlier, the increased incidence of fire in the country. How would you suggest that one should go about insuring one's home, for instance, or business premises, especially against fire?
Thank you, Madam. As I said earlier, because of the rise, the increase that we're having in this area, it's important that everyone identify the assets that you have, because even if you have money to buy them, replacing such at this time will be something impossible. And that's why insurance companies should be approached. We have in insurance, we have two categories of insurance companies. We have some that major in writing life and life alone. We have some that do write what you call general business or pecuniary. So these are the insurance companies that you approach, and they are all over, and they are our members. And in insuring your assets, there are many processes that you need to go through. Number one, it's important that you ascertain what is the value of what I want to insure. And if you have processes to go through, some will require you giving a list of the asset that you want to cover, the value at the moment, and then the appropriate premium will be charged. But it's important to have this record, and establish such at the beginning of your coverage, so that in case anything happens, it's not at that time you begin to argue. And like we know, it's an ongoing thing, especially when you talk about the home. You keep acquiring assets. As you acquire all these assets, you also need to update the information that you have with the insurance company. Okay. At the time of claim, it should be said, oh, it wasn't part of what we covered. So, all these are supposed to be known to you. There's that openness to know.
As you are informing them, is your premium not rising because your value is increasing?
Well, with the added asset, because you are adding to their own liability. But it's important for you to know that what I came in with at the beginning, at the onset of my insurance, is not what I'm ending with. you need that update,
Okay.
you know, and inform them.
And I would like your comment on this scenario. A friend of mine wanted to put her jewelry in the bank because she had quite a bit. She took it to the bank, but the bank refused to accept it, saying that she had to insure the stuff first before bringing it to them. When she told me, I said, well, after you have insured it, then you don't need to take it to the bank anymore.
Well,
What are your thoughts?
my thoughts, you know, to all this asset that we have, especially when you talk about jewelries, what insurance covers is the replacement of the jewelry that you have brought. But there's also the emotional attachment to some things.
Yes.
And because, you know, emotional attachment or the sentiment is not what insurance covers. So you might want to take the second level of securing what you have to say it's not just about paying me money. These are the things I inherited from my grandmother. And so even if I want them back, although this is the cost, I might not get them. And I'm sentimentally, I'm attached to it. So it's second level of cover. You still take it to the bank, and then it's still protected.
Insurance.
Then I pay the bank, I pay the insurance company, and I pay the bank.
What I'm saying is the financial compensation you will get with insurance.
Yes.
And that is just sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you now know, oh, I have emotional attachment to
Attachments.
it, I don't want it to get lost at all, you know, it's also an opportunity.
Additional
Yes.
safety.
Okay, we'll swing back again to you, Prof. In a pandemic like this, the question of emotion cannot be downplayed. A lot of people are very emotional about the things that they're going through. There's a question of mental health and fear and all of that. You talked earlier, Alewa asked a question about if she wanted to lay a complaint about an HMO, about the fact that right now I need to go to the hospital. My colleague and I were having a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about, in a pandemic, who takes care of the people? Can I just go to any hospital and be taken care of? Will the government pay and all of that? So I'll ask that question about a phone number that we can reach if I go to the hospital and I'm not taken care of. Do you have that number now?
Yes, we have the number. You know, as I said, we have a call center. And if you look at our pamphlets, there are MTN numbers. There is also a website. Part of the number that we have is 080-3979-6126. We also have a GLOW number, 080-590-15854. We also have another number, 080-832-80131. Then the final number, 080-6744-100. Then we have a website which you can reach our organization, www.nhis.gov.ng. So any of this one can do.
Prof, I would like you to react to this tweet from Olanike Bakrin, who says, a health insurance scheme that doesn't include the over 60s is wicked. What do you have for the elders in terms of health care?
This is an excellent question. The retirement age is 60 years for the civil servant, is 65 years for administrative officers in the universities, and is 70 years for academic staff. So in our health insurance, we have just upgraded our ICT to reflect this reality. So our health insurance have people above 60 years, up to 70 years. But specifically, if he mentioned retirees, then I will tell him that is very true. And that is why we have this a drive towards attainment of universal health coverage. And for example, there must be cover for all retirees, people that have worked for up to 60 years of their age. At the point of their retirement, they suddenly lost their health insurance opportunities. This is one of the things that is within the matrix of our cover. The defense, we have already perfected arrangement, and they have started enjoying the retiree pension scheme. Very recently, we have also extended the retiree pension scheme for the members of the defense services. We are already DSS. We have already reached advanced stage with a discussion with the police service, with the Inspector General of Police, to ensure that we factor in the retirees of the police. Then the retirees of the public servants. This is where we want to ensure that we have a strong advocacy for government to make budgetary provision for all the people that have retired in the spirit of attaining sustainable development goals, in the spirit of attainment of the universal health coverage. Our national health insurance scheme, if you look at our decree very clearly, you will see that it is only restricted to the people that are within the employment sector and people that can join the national health insurance scheme as voluntary contributors. So this is one of the advocacy that we want to do in an attempt to expand the coverage of the national health insurance scheme. I quite agree with him. It is not fair, and it is one of the things that is in our matrix of cover and in the front burner. And we have started experimenting it with the security agencies, as I mentioned. And very soon, by the time we roll out our expansion coverage mechanism, we are very sure that government will come into the aids of the national insurance scheme to cover the retiree. But for those group of people who are not under any employment and who are categorized as a vulnerable segment of the population, if you remember vividly, there is what is called Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, which came as a result of an act of Parliament under the National Health under the National Health Act, of which a total of 1% of the consolidated revenue should go into the healthcare delivery system. 50% of that money is supposed to come to the National Health Insurance Scheme, and it has even started coming. That money, we send it directly to the state health insurance agencies for them to register the vulnerable group of the population and pay their premium. So if you have people above 60 years and they fall within the category of the vulnerable segment of the population, that fund is made on their behalf. We have disbursed to the states the first tranche of that fund, and we are even due to disburse the second tranche for them, so that to cover those people that are vulnerable and poor, they cannot pay for the healthcare services.
Okay, thank you, Professor Sambo. Professor Sambo, you do have a lot to say. We would hopefully get you back one of these days to tell us more about the NHIS. But thank you so much. We're speaking to Professor Mohammed Sambo, the Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, who joined us from our Abuja studio. Mrs. Yetunde Ilori, who's the Director General of Nigeria Insurers Association, joined us here in Lagos studios. Thank you both for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.